Greetings. Now, regarding this Data University series, it is important to recognize that each video by itself is just a description of a graph, but the series is meant to be watched as a playlist, which is in a shuffle mode or a randomized order, so you don't know which video is going to come next. In watching this playlist, you might see a video for a chart that you've already seen before, but nonetheless, that is the proper technique to benefit from the Data University series, because the totality of it is much more than the sum of its parts. If you watch this as a randomized list, particularly when it's 50 or 100 videos, right now it's still in the process of getting to that point, your intelligence will rise very quickly. And this Data University series is designed to be useful even for children as young as 11, perhaps. Some people have expressed dissatisfaction at these types of videos, but they are seeing each video as a standalone unit rather than a component of the larger playlist. It's more analogous to a link in a chain, or one line of code within a software program, or one atom within a molecule. Think of it that way. The totality is much more than the sum of its individual parts, and it should be viewed as such rather than just a standalone video describing a graph. And with that, we come to this new chart, which is Moore's Law. Now, Moore's Law was originated by Gordon Moore, who passed away recently, which is why I'm doing this video now. He passed away after a long life, and Moore's Law still is going on, even though the origins of Moore's Law are from an article he wrote in 1965. And Intel Corporation was co-founded by Gordon Moore in 1968, and starting from 1971, where we have this Intel 4004 processor, you see the progression of processors over the decades. Now, to view this chart, this is the time going forward as we move rightwards, calendar years, 1970 all the way up to 2020. And this vertical axis is the transistor count of each chip, and this is a logarithmic axis, meaning that orders of magnitude are at similar distance from each other. 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million. Each of these orders of magnitude, 10 times more, are equidistant, and that's what it has to be in order to depict the exponential nature of Moore's Law accurately. The Intel 4004 apparently had only 2,000 transistors in 1971, but that was the state-of-the-art integrated circuit of its time. And Moore's Law, which states that the number of transistors in an integrated circuit of a certain price doubles every 2 years, that has continued because the trend line inherent to this chart is still pretty stable, and it isn't flattening out too much even now. It's flattening out a little bit because we are now at huge transistor counts and therefore very small manufacturing process sizes, 3 nanometers to be exact, which is further than anyone thought it could go. The fact that Moore's Law is still continuing, even in a somewhat diminished state, but is still continuing in 2022, which is even a little bit after this chart, is remarkable. So think of all the important processors that have occurred over this time. Maybe you don't know the names of all these processors, but you have owned personal computers that had each of these. Think about the first home computer you owned and what year that was, and how many transistors was the trend line for that year. And then the second personal computer you owned, then the third, the fourth, and what you buy now, and how what you can buy today is 100,000 or 1,000,000 times more powerful than what you could have bought in the 1980s. That is Moore's Law. It is the backbone of technological progress and certainly of computing progress. Even in this header, it says that this advancement is important for other aspects of technological progress in computing, such as processing speed or the price of computers. And I'll add my own dimension to that, which is equally important: energy consumption per calculation. Now you can do millions of calculations for the same amount of energy consumption as it cost to do just one calculation half a century ago. Energy consumption is an important dimension of computational progress because energy efficiency gains are a mandatory requirement for any advancement in computation. This is the core of any discussion around futurism and technological progress, and is a super important concept, and therefore a hugely important chart for everyone to internalize and to cheer for, because even when semiconductor-based computing technologies saturate and Moore's Law can no longer continue, exponential computing progress will still continue through some other architecture of computing, and therefore separate from transistor count, the number of calculations per second, etc., are what we will be measuring, like we see in those supercomputer charts that I do other videos for. Thanks for watching.